Unspoken Issues.
All right, let's get into our fourth story here. In the spirit of the season, 10-page story featuring The Punisher. Written by Carl Potts, penciled by Richard Levins, inked by Al Milgrom, lettered by Bruce Elliott Jones, and colored by Patty Cockrum. In this story, we follow the Punisher as Microchip challenges him to go 48 hours without lethal force during the holidays. While investigating a string of charity thefts, Frank goes undercover as Santa and discovers a small-time thug extorting neighborhood kids into committing the robberies. Determined to win the bet and still deliver justice, Frank uses reinforced Santa armor, clever planning, and non-lethal tactics to take down the criminal without throwing a single punch. After handing the villain over to the police, Frank smugly tells Micro he kept the letter of the bet. The story ends with the two exchanging a dry, surprisingly warm holiday greeting, proving even the Punisher can manage a festive victory in his own way. And as for the story, does it integrate Christmas into this narrative? Yeah, I think it does. It brings an element of the holiday season in. It's the whole reason Microchip wants him to try and not hurt somebody on Christmas Eve and Christmas. And Microchip giving Frank grief about his violent habits, it feels like it fits perfectly with a holiday challenge, just like this 48-hour no lethal force bet. I think it's something that Micro would definitely try. The violence, humor, and holiday spirit, it's tough to tell a story with these characters and actually use a tone that still works. And I think this story succeeds. This story has the right balance for a Punisher tale with a kind of seasonal twist. As far as the no lethal force for 48 hours, it feels half true to the character and half holiday gimmick. Early 90s Punisher wasn't quite as grim and intense as later versions, so the bet feels plausible for that era, and it's a fun premise that drives the whole story. I love how Frank problem solves without killing here. He has to strategize around the limitations, adding a more interesting layer to this guy, and seeing these tricks that he pulls out to win the bet keeps the reader engaged. And that's a lot of part of the fun, is trying to figure out how he's going to pull this off. It's the Punisher, for crying out loud. And yes, we all get a good glimpse as Frank dressing up as Santa. It's funny and kind of expected, but in the best way. Seeing Frank Castle in a Santa suit is instantly entertaining and just adds enough absurdity without losing the story's grounding. But I think one of the best moments is the reinforced Santa suit and this signature chest punch that this thug has, where he punches people in the chest so they can't breathe. And he has this very Back to the Future Part 3 Marty McFly door of the oven bulletproof vest, steel plate under his clothes to absorb this lethal hit. And I think it works perfect for the story. Our villain here, not memorable at all, definitely small scale, but again, this is the Punisher's mission. He cleans up the street, big or small. And if you are hurting people, you're on his list. Extorting kids may not be a grand threat, but it works for this more street level holiday setup. We got all these heists going on here. That's a decent way of setting things up for the story. It's not too lighthearted, and it kind of adds to this growing Santa-related crime wave running through this holiday special as a whole, at least in a couple stories. You're taking your life into your own hands dressing up as a Santa Claus in the Marvel 616 Manhattan. Now, as far as a message goes, this is pretty tongue-in-cheek in my opinion. Frank does not walk away from this story with warm holiday feelings. He kind of walks away having beaten Micro and bagged a criminal. And that fits perfectly with who Frank is. And this wrap-up conversation between Micro and Frank works. Frank remains cynical as always, fully believing not killing this guy probably won't matter long-term anyway. But it is a nice little bow on Micro and Punisher's dynamic here. Art team did solid work. Santa sequences look good. Comedic action beats landed. Nothing was distracting or out of place, in my opinion. And if I was to place this out of the 8 stories that we're going to get, I'm partial to Punisher stories, so it's probably going to land at least at number 4. It's not the absolute best, but definitely above average, in my opinion. And coming away with this, I think this is a memorable one-off Punisher tale. Anytime Frank Castle goes an entire story without killing someone, that stands out. So it's a clever and fun novelty that still feels like a Punisher adventure.